Highcast. Highcast is recorded in the studios of Highland FM. Go to highlandfm.org.au. Volunteer. Do it now. It's fun. This podcast is supported by Southern Highland News. I get my local news from Southern Highland News. Go to southernhighlandnews.com.au and get your information right now. I've been very proud to have this podcast associated with Bright Spenders. It's been my optimization tool for the past couple of months, and I'm using Bright Spenders to get my spending on track. My wife and I have cleaned out our finances. We're starting to plan for the future. It has been an awesome experience. Hit up Anthea, brightspenders.com. You won't regret it. It's fantastic. Our guest today, Zach Hulm, I'm gonna get in trouble. Zach Hulm and Richard Vines. Zach and Richard are representing Rare Cancers Australia. Welcome, team.
Thanks. G'day, David.
It's all right. It's going to be an exciting podcast. I can tell the room is bouncing. So tell me about Rare Cancers Australia.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll start at the beginning, which was that. Is that my wife Kate, who couldn't be here today, is a 25-year survivor of a very rare thyroid cancer called medullary thyroid carcinoma. And in 2011, her oncologist in a meeting with us said, have you guys ever thought about setting up a charity for rare cancer patients? Because there isn't any support, there isn't anyone advocating for government change of policy for them. And there's a real need. So there was a few steps on the way. We were based in Melbourne at the time, but we ultimately moved up to Bowral, and the gods aligned. And on the 25th of June 2012, we decided that we would set it up. And Kate's oncologist was right. There's a huge need. You know, we know with more common cancers that like breast or prostate or melanoma, there were established patient groups providing support and guidance for people diagnosed with some of these cancers, but the very rare ones and the less common ones, there was just nothing significant out there. And the most common thing we found when someone's diagnosed with a rare cancer is that the first thing they hear from their doctor or their oncologist is that, you know, I've never seen one of these before, because you can be dealing with patient populations of maybe 20, 30, 50, 60 patients in Australia at any one point in time.
Really, it's so did you just say 20 to 50 at one time?
Across the country. So out of the 140 odd thousand diagnoses of cancer a year, you might have a particular cancer, for example, salivary gland cancer, that where there's only maybe 20 patients diagnosed at any one point in time. So there's very little knowledge of it. There's always one guy, there's always one expert somewhere who's interested in it, and our job is to find them and let patients know that these people do exist and that there is someone good to go see.
So it's not necessarily just advocating on behalf of rare cancer sufferers. It's actually not physically going knocking on doors, but you're doing all of the research that's required to find the correct oncologist, the expert, etc.
Yeah, we just recently launched a knowledge base on our website, which is rarecancers.org.au, where we've accumulated information on 250 different cancer types, but included in that, we've tried to catalogue, based on survey information, those cancer specialists that have a particular interest in particular cancers, those treatment centres that are around and are available that are specialist cancer centres, so that people across the country can have a look at, come to that website, see what they can find, understand a little bit more about the cancer that they've been diagnosed with, and if they want to, read about it, or alternatively ring us up. We have a patient care centre. So our work is kind of twofold. We look after today's patients and hold their hands and try and nurture them through the journey. And we also spend a lot of time driving down the highway to Canberra to advocate for better access to medicines, more research funding, and better government policy generally around these small patient populations.
And Zach, you've got a personal story as well.
Oh, look, I've been doing all sorts of advocating and fundraising for cancers for many, many years, and very fortunate enough to run into Kate and Richard at the ideal time, I think, for myself particularly. And I think that, like Richard talks about the planets aligning, I think the planets aligned, and now I have the privilege of working with Richard and Kate, and I'm doing a lot of stuff in the community, and I'm looking for different platforms where we can let people know that this amazing organisation exists, and we're out there to help people.
But you also had a rare cancer when you were younger, is that right?
I didn't necessarily have a rare cancer. I had lymphoblastic leukemia, which is highly curable. I just had a few complications along the way that were quite rare, and but still have the opportunity to sit here today with Richard and work with Rare Cancers Australia and keep pushing forward with the mission to help people out there.
Yeah, okay. So it always seems, and I'm going to generalise here, but it always seems like when people get involved in things like this, it's because of either personal ambition or it's been it's been a highly personal part of their life. And it sounds like that for the two of you. Zach as a cancer sufferer, Richard as your wife. Do you find that?
Yeah, I think it's important, and I think it has some interesting consequences. There's a huge need if someone is either diagnosed and survived with a cancer or any other disease, or if someone loses someone, then there's a burning desire to do something, to try and make some sense out of your loss or out of your experience, and that inevitably leads people to either working with or volunteering or establishing a lot of charities.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's not so good, because you can have people who've maybe, a charity is essentially a business that just doesn't make money, But as I always say to people, if you think you're different, don't pay your electricity bill if you're a charity, and see how long it takes before they cut you off. So it's tricky, but. And sometimes people who've never run a business set up a charity, and that can be difficult. It's better to it's better to join forces to become part of something bigger if you want to contribute, I think.
But I think it's weird. And weird's not the right word, but you have to go through something through so much adversity to then find such a calling. It's silly that to do something so fantastic you have to have that suffering beforehand. And I don't mean it that you have to have, but it's the irony of such good comes from the sadness beforehand, or the turmoil beforehand. Zach, you wanted to say something?
I think one thing that and I spoke to someone recently at an event we had in Western Sydney, and I think one thing, and if you want to search for a word, it gives you perspective. Yeah. And for as someone who went through the ordeal, or whatever word you want to use, you kind of come out the other side and go, right, well, what was the mission for that? And once you kind of get on the train and start figuring out the direction you're heading in, before you know it, you're sitting next to Richard Vines and you're working with Rare Cancers Australia, and it's almost like all the pieces of the puzzle have come together. But I think perspective is the word. Yeah, well, I was in preparing for this conversation. I got really sad, because I'm looking at the fantastic work you do, and I was thinking of all of the unfortunate suffering that goes into it. And I've got young boys, and you know how it's like when your mind starts to follow bouncing balls down rabbit holes. I was like, oh my God, they're going to die. And I know I'm trying not to make too light of the situation, but I got sad preparing for this conversation. Yeah, look, and I think justifiably so. And one of the strange things that we have that happens in our society is that we live in a community, not an economy, and sometimes with cancer care, all we talk about are the dollars. And the parallel that I like to make is that when you talk about little boys, there were in Thailand we had 12 little boys lost in a cave. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And the world stopped, and we flew in special forces from the US. We flew in, we almost got Elon Musk. We just went hammer and tong and we got them out. And
right now, I can tell you right now that there are 12 similar little boys in hospitals in Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, and we're going through excruciating processes to work out whether or not we should fund their treatment. We don't respond in the same way to patients as we do. Something happens. As soon as you're diagnosed as a patient, you move from the community to the economy, and that's got to change.
That's really interesting, because I would have thought if you'd said that about the United States, then that would have been a fair summary. But even in Australia, that you still consider that that's the case. Yeah,
look, I think, and don't get me wrong, I think the Australian system is good, but there's still a lot about public health and the way that we react to people that is a lot to do with affordability and money. And to a certain extent, that's reasonable. We don't have infinite money, but we can be a little bit more. Our argument for the last 6 years has been that we can be a lot more flexible around what we fund for patient care and when we fund it, but yeah, the same thing still applies. If there were, I can tell you, I can absolutely guarantee you, I could name them right now. There are kids who are sitting there who need treatments that are proven treatments that they'll probably have to go overseas to get because we can't move fast enough.
Zach, how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was 17.
Yeah, okay. So you're like thinking you're a young man going into the prime of your life, and all of a sudden you're diagnosed with a life-threatening disease.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think the young man in the prime of his life with a little bit of arrogance who went.
Well, I'm still arrogant now, so.
Yeah. No, I was there, and I'm like, okay, and I just saw I really wasn't. I saw it as a process, and I was focusing on the outcome.
Yeah, okay.
And like there was a lot of ups and downs, and the story could be told 1,000 times. But I remember going to a bone marrow transplant with 8 other patients in an acute care ward, and I was the only one who walked out at the end. So
wow.
Then I'm
that's
like,
perspective for
well,
you, isn't
that
it?
is
yeah.
perspective. And then you think, well, and as a young man, I was like, well, I've got to do all these things, and I got on this major train of success, but I never achieved anything until I really sat down and went, you know what, I've got to figure out why I've got this innate energy and where I can direct it.
And hence the place that you've ended up now is Rare Cancers Australia.
Yeah.
Richard, you mentioned that you could name the 12, or insert generic number here, little boys around Australia who have a rare cancer. Does that, and I talked about sadness before, is that difficult for you?
Yeah, it can be enormously difficult, and in our organisation, we're a very proudly Bowral-based organisation, and all our patient care is done from Bowral. We have other people in Sydney who do other things around events and communication, etc. But it is incredibly. There are good days and there are bad days, and the bad days are really, they're really raw, and we go to some lengths to make sure that those of us who are in constant patient contact are looking after themselves, because it's a relentless process. We have new patients coming to us in search of some form or assistance or other at the rate of 5 to 10 a week.
Far out.
So it's tough, and you need to be careful. But it's the people that we have doing it are amazing, and they deal with incredible sadness. So you could imagine how challenging it is, and sometimes when you're dealing with a mother or a father who's got a young child who's gravely ill, you need to be empathetic, you need to be patient, you need to be as helpful and constructive as you can be to make it work.
Yeah, but you've also, and I think you mentioned it, you've got to think about yourself too. It's really, for me personally, I throw myself at work, and it sounds like, Zach, you've thrown yourself at a number of things throughout the years. Like, how do you separate yourself? How do you draw the line? Do you go home and drink a bottle of scotch? Like,
if only, I think I go back to the word of perspective again.
Yeah.
It's something that I use quite often. And I was talking to a husband at an event the other day, and he said, with the illness of his wife having a rare cancer, it's completely changed his thinking, his lack of judgment on people, and
that's weird, isn't it?
And the way he even parents his children. He said the perspective of where his life is now compared to 10, 15 years ago, because of the changes that they've made. But it also gives us a great community. Like, I remember being sick and you had a few books thrown at you and, wish you on your way. But I listened to the patient care team in the office because I'm not far away from them, and the way they talk and the knowledge that they have and their ability to find solutions and give hope and never give up is absolutely magnificent.
Quite often we are on this podcast and a lot of media you listen to, I feel like people have lost perspective. The way that we talk to each other, the way that we treat each other, particularly online, is atrocious. And sorry, Richard, you want to say something?
No.
Without making everybody sick, how do we give people perspective?
I'm not sure that, what has someone said is experience is something that turns up, 10 minutes after you need it.
So what was that?
I said experience is something that turns up about 10 minutes after you need it.
Okay.
And there's a bit of that with perspective. And cancer is a particularly difficult disease because it doesn't happen. It's not all over in a week. These are one of its, least or most difficult attributes is that it's a disease of attrition, that you can be diagnosed and you're living with cancer or the prospect of cancer being treated or being cured or coming back or reappearing or metastasizing, year after year after year. Once it's there, and that is, it's one of the reasons why we don't exclusively employ people with an experience of cancer, but we're very careful about the people that have a lot of contact with patients, because it's to understand that relentless nature of the disease is to know that when you start talking to a patient, you're going to be talking to them for an extended period of time, and it may not have a great outcome. But you do have some good ones. And a simple example of a guy in Perth, we worked really, really hard to get him get him compassionate access to a new drug, and he had been diagnosed for many years with this debilitating cancer, and he was the last patient to be enrolled in this access program, and after one treatment, it was just he wasn't cured, but he was better and he was healthier, and he was on the phone to one of the people in our office saying it's the best he's felt in 10 years.
Wow.
So you have some wins, but you also have some tragedies.
I was going to ask you, how is the good that you feel, like we've talked about some of the negative sides of it, dealing with it. Is the reward, you've got some really low lows, but is the highs, soaring highs?
Yeah, some of them are amazing. There is unquestionably people walking around in Australia today who would not have been walking around if our patient care team didn't do what they did. And and if I think if anybody had a job where you got to save one life, that would be. And sometimes it's not save the life, sometimes it's extend the life. We don't know always with cancer what the long-term outcome will be, but if you give someone, particularly a young dad or a young mum, the opportunity to live beyond tomorrow into next year and the year after, that's incredibly important for families, and the way it builds memories. We've had one guy which always springs to mind is he was diagnosed with a terminal lung cancer while his wife was pregnant, and he.
I'm not laughing at it because it's funny. It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
It's just and by a process that we helped a little bit with, but primarily the medical profession and research, he set himself a goal of walking that little girl to school on her first day at school, and he made it. He didn't make it much past that, but he made it for 5 years.
Wow.
And that was, and I was talking to his wife, and she said, my daughter will know and remember her father.
Yeah,
and that's really quite critical. So that's just it's a hugely positive thing. It might not sound like it, but it's sometimes time is everything.
Yeah. Okay. What did you do beforehand? So your wife got diagnosed with cancer. What were you doing before that?
My 22nd CV is that all of the 20th century I worked in the IT industry.
All of the 20th. Okay, go on.
Yep, last century.
Yeah.
And then I reached...
There was a point to that. I was like trying to figure it out. Yeah.
And most of this century I've been in one form or another of the not-for-profit space, which has either been... I worked for I was the marketing director of the Retailers Association. I was CEO of an organisation that was a kind of almost like a mini chamber of commerce in Melbourne for a very specific purpose, which was essentially a political group. And then we started this 6 years ago. So it was a major career shift, and largely because you reach a time in your life when you think that the rate of change of technology is something that my brain couldn't handle, so I had to do something else.
I can't handle it now. And that's actually a good segue. I wanted to ask Zach, it's been a while since you went through your diagnosis and treatment. Has cancer treatment changed a lot during the time that you've, I don't want to say been involved, but I guess that's the point.
Oh, look, from a key example is it's been about 21 years since I was sick, and I remember 16 years later a friend of mine rang me and he's like, "What was your doctor's name?" Because his wife had got the same cancer that I had, and so I spent 2.5 years in hospital and had a pretty a bone marrow transplant that they said I wouldn't survive, and then his wife, fortunately enough, she was treated by the same doctor with the same, as he would say, aggressive manner, and she was in hospital for 3 months, and still
as opposed to 2.5 years.
2.5 years,
yeah.
and a big transplant at the end. So.
Yeah.
From my perspective, and that's purely my knowledge, I think the drugs and the processes are better. But when you listen to some of the things that we talk about with Rare Cancers Australia, there's drugs out there that need to be in the country. And
that's pretty much why I asked you the question, because it leads into like, why does Rare Cancer Australia exist? Cancer, everybody knows why. Everybody knows cancer. So what's it specifically about rare cancers that?
It's the cancers that you never really hear about.
So 20 to 50 people at any one time.
It's sometimes more than that. But people sometimes ask me what they are, and we talk about rare and less common, but everyone talks about brain, but you don't hear much about ocular melanoma, which is cancer in the eye, ear, throat, salivary gland, esophagus, which is getting more and more common, stomach, bile duct.
Why is this?
Why is
esophagus?
It is.
Is it a lifestyle disease?
It's a lifestyle. Yeah, it's. There are a couple of triggers, which
fish and chips.
Weight.
Okay.
Yeah, weight. To some extent, it's not helped by. It's not helped by alcohol or caffeine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Caffeine. Damn it! Because coffee in the last 20 years has gone through the roof.
Yep.
So I was actually going to ask you later whether caffeine consumption, tobacco rates are going down, caffeine's going through the roof. Is there a change from your lung to any sort of other cancers? Because
they more refer to. I was at a conference the other day where they were referring as obesity as the new tobacco.
Really, and they say sitting down as well is.
As we sit here chatting, yes.
Yeah. I was just thinking,
right.
As soon as I said that, my back started to...
We'll go for a walk.
I'm actually, one day I would love to have my own studio, and I'd love to do it standing. I think it would be, just to sit, maybe even have a bar and sit there and have a bar and a beer and do the conversation standing. But that's away from this conversation. So rarer cancers being brought on by changes in lifestyle, changes in whatever?
Yeah, look, I think, well, the other major change in lifestyle cancer is this is a complicated argument, but essentially, if you live long enough, you'll get cancer. And so as our population ages, we get higher occurrences of cancer in older people. And that's a good thing because it means that they lived long enough to get old, in a sense, if you look at that way.
The irony of it, but it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, and but rare cancers are also virtually every cancer that impacts a Gen Y or a Gen X, and there are 10 Gen Xs dying in Australia a day from rare cancers and 1 Gen Y. And that's a real loss because we've invested a lot of money in you and Zach in education, nurturing, what have you. And if we lose a young Australian, that's a serious loss just in an economic sense.
So I was going to say, that's funny because you were saying you got to treat people as community members, not as part of the economy. But then you just referred to us as part of the economy.
Yeah, well, and I did kind of add the social cost on the end, and I should have started with the social cost.
No, but your point is very valid.
Yeah, and I just wanted to check if you were paying attention.
Yeah. Thanks. You're listening to Highcast. So Zach, you said before being part of Rare Cancers Australia, you've been doing advocacy for cancer for pretty much since you've had it. What other things have you've been involved in?
Oh, look, I from a professional point of view, I was very much involved in customer service and sales and so forth. I had this dream of being one of the youngest general managers in Australia in a hotel, and achieved that a bit earlier than I thought. But the thing about that when we talk about community, and like I said, I was at an amazing community event not long ago, which was Sunday, and I think, whether we're talking about a sales point of view or we're talking about a customer service point of view and so forth, as working with the community as an engagement manager, it's about creating experiences, because those experiences become memories, and these memories are something that people will live with forever. Whether it's like Richard said, we're extending life sometimes. So that little girl will always remember that her dad walked her to school.
Yeah. Okay.
And things like that. So,
please just feel free to talk.
Yeah, a really great example of that is every year we have our major fundraiser for the year is people walking from Thredbo to the top of Mount Kosciuszko.
Really? Wow.
And
actually, I'd love to do that. I think that sounds like a lot of fun. You're doing it in summer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah, and but you fail to realise the impact that you have when you do that, and it's been enormously successful, and it is a great fun weekend, March 2nd, 2019. Last year, about 2 or 3 days after, I took a call in the office, and it was from this lady who said, just wanted to say thank you for putting the event on, and she said she'd been diagnosed with a rare cancer 10 years before and had survived, and she said it was the first time in her life that she'd been able to attend an event for her type of cancer. And she said, I kind of laughed and cried all the way to the top of the mountain because it was so special that it was something about me, my experience, and my place in the community. And that's the joy of it, in the sense that creating Rare Cancers gave all of these people who otherwise had no support group, no sense of belonging. Sometimes we talk to patients and carers, and it's enough that we exist and that we're trying to make it better, and that they're not alone. That's an incredibly, and it overwhelms us at times how much that means to people.
How do you do it all from Bowral?
We live in it was always going to have to be an Australia-wide operation. We try to provide a lot of support on the web. It wouldn't matter where we were. If we were in Sydney, we'd still have the issue with Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Hobart. the great thing, when we first started, it was just Kate and I would be, I had lots of reasons to be in Sydney, and we had lots and lots of reasons to be in Canberra, and it turned out to be really good because I was
halfway between.
Yeah, I was in Canberra yesterday, and I had a meeting in the minister's office around some policy initiatives that Greg Hunt is initiating, and I got in my car and drove home. If I lived in Sydney or Melbourne, I would have had to go out to the airport and get a plane. And with a reasonably economic car, I can get home for $10.
So you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Live in the Highlands so you can get to Canberra for $10.
That's right.
But I think the reason why I asked the question is one of the previous guests I had was Joe Crawley, who is general manager, CEO. One of those things, Joe, I apologise, of Barbara May Foundation, which is a charity that operates from here that supports maternity health in Africa. And I guess through my journey here is I'm discovering that there's all of these organisations like yourself that are doing either work that has world impacts, or in your case, Australia-wide impacts, all from our little sleepy town here, and so it must be difficult to imagine what's going on in Perth or the Northern Territory on a daily basis, but do it from an office in Bowral.
Yeah, it does. It has its challenges, but no more difficult to imagine what's going on in Perth from Sydney. The thing that it does is if we were trying to do this solely out of Sydney, and we do have staff in Sydney, they work. We have some office space at the Garvan Institute, who we work with quite closely in Sydney. But what it allows us to do is to, living in Bowral is not a cheap place, but it doesn't rate when it's compared to Sydney or Melbourne. So there's some huge cost advantages. Most of what we were always going to have to do was going to have to be done by phone, by digital in one form or another. So it really shouldn't matter where we are, and we get, you need some things to keep you sane, and Bowral's a lovely place to live, so it helps.
That is true. I'm a complete advocate for the Highlands. You mentioned that you need to be working in the digital space. How do you set yourself up digitally? How do you manage a business remotely?
I think that pretty much everything we do is cloud based. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. For people listening, it just means you don't have your hard drives in the room.
No, we have to think a lot about the patients and what they can cope with. We've produced this knowledge base which has got a lot of information in it. And what we're now doing is trying to produce, when you go onto the Qantas website, you can have a little dialogue box that comes up that you can ask questions. Yep. So we're in the process.
Chat with me now.
Yeah, that's right. We're in the process of trying to implement that part automated and part with an ability to flip it to live chat when people need more. Because it's a really strange thing. Sometimes people want information, but they haven't yet reached a point in their cancer experience where they want to actually have a conversation. So sometimes people will come. We track quite closely people who come look at the website.
So you've got full analytics on what visitor behaviour is on the website.
And whether
wow, that's really intriguing.
Yeah, and so we kept noticing that people. We originally only had a directory where you could have information on any of these 200 plus cancers, and people would come, read that, and then they'd leave. And we thought, well, they clearly came. You don't just get curiosity into it, adrenocortical carcinoma, adrenal gland cancer. You don't just. There's a reason why you come to look at that. And so we thought if we attach more information onto that, then that's more stuff that they can do. And then any time once the bot is the dialogue box is in place, then when they get a question and they don't get the answer, we can say, okay, we can transfer you to someone, or we can get someone to call you back.
See, how cool is that? Because any education business, so TAFE New South Wales or any body like that, would be interested in that sort of information would be trying to go through a similar process. But because of the nature of your business and I keep saying a business, because of the nature of your work and the acute necessity to provide information right then and there, because of the deep requirement for it, you've set yourself up probably in advance of so many other actual businesses. You're performing better than so many businesses, even though you're a charity. That's really fantastic.
Yeah, and I think,
is that because you've got an IT background, or you just?
It's. I would love to claim all the credit.
But you would have known about, you would have known what potential is available.
Yeah,
okay.
And we have on our board, one of our founding board members there's a lady called Nina Parker who's quite senior at Microsoft, so as well as being my daughter. But she's always been
just a plug there.
She's always been an enormous source of why don't you do this? Why don't you do this, Dad? Talk to these people because these are these guys are really on top of it, and it's really made a difference. We intuitively, I'm aware of the potential if you get it right. I'm aware of the downfall if you don't get it right too.
Yeah, okay. Zach, your community engagement, what's the hardest thing you find with telling people about rare cancers?
I guess the hardest thing I find about telling people about rare cancers is giving them a definition. I guess you can talk about the numbers and so forth, and you can discuss stories, and I think stories are the best way to get the message across.
So you said experiences and now stories. So you're really trying to create an effect for people. Yeah,
I think emotion comes into it as well.
I'm sorry to stop you, but the question I was going to ask, and where I was leading this, do you think people are sort of cancered out? Like, you've got the McGrath Foundation and breast cancer. And I don't mean this detrimentally. It's just, when you're trying to say, oh, you know what, there's this group of other cancers that you should care about too. Is that hard? Yeah, it is. I think because of the profile of a lot of the other charities and the cancer charities and McGrath and all those sorts of things. Not to take anything away from what they've done, but. And I feel that my role is to be out there with the people and making sure that they're aware of what we do and the support that they can get, and that we're not just a charity. We're out there. Richard's in Canberra all the time, and he's talking to the minister, and we're working with pharmaceutical companies, and we're much bigger than just a charity in Bowral. So I want them to see that there's progression here, and that we're in there to keep moving forward. Yeah, and you mentioned that you're trying to be more than much bigger than just a charity in Bowral. You and I met at the dentist. Yep. of all places, and you said, "Oh, Rare Cancers Australia up out of Bowral." I'm like, "What?" You don't know that these sort of things, that these fantastic organisations such as yourself operate out of our sleepy part of the world.
You're absolutely right, and we've been sort of focused on patients and policy and so forth, and sitting here doing this Highcast is actually evidence that the decision to hire Zach was the correct one, because we felt we needed to be out in the community more, telling people, and because you met him at the dentist, it's working. Yeah. We're here doing a podcast, so and it's been and it's exactly why we're here. I mean, we want to be an active supporting part of. There's a lot of rare cancer patients in Bowral, and we want them to know about us. We want to help, and we want to work with the community as this sort of organisation. So that's why he's here, and he's doing a fabulous job. So it's exciting, but this podcast is living proof it's working.
Yeah, there you go. Shout out to where do we go? Smile Team. Shout out to the team at Smile Team. I hope that's Planet Smiles. Who are you? I don't know.
At the same time, David, I think if you're passionate about something, you live it and breathe it. So if I'm not talking about Rare Cancers Australia, I'm talking about cycling.
Yeah, I think that's how I heard.
We bring the two together and so forth, and it's about creating that ambience. And it's the girls in the office are like, oh, you don't mind a chat, Zach? Sometimes I actually make appointments outside the office to give them some respite.
I must admit,
everything.
Zach was talking to the receptionist at the dentist, and I was just there plodding away, waiting for my turn. And I'm like, wow, this sounds like a really interesting story. I forget exactly what you were talking about, whether it was cycling or your trip up north, but it definitely piqued my interest. And I wanted to ask you another question, Zach, about, I asked you what the hardest thing is. So, and it's obviously there are some difficulties in talking about cancer. How do you then, once you've got people interested, how do you transition that to it's maybe not the right word, but excitement to do something about it?
Look, I honestly have a great belief in community, and I think to create excitement in my own indifferent, crazy, if not accurate ways, you've got to lead. You just got to lead from the front. If you're not excited, other people can't get excited. And I believe life's too short to not enjoy life and be out there and living it to an epic proportion. And I feel if I can be that guy who's out there living it to that epic proportion. Don't get me wrong, there's days where I sit on the couch and watch TV, but they're very few and far between. And I think if you can lead from the front and you can create the energy, you bring people with you. And you start to get a bit of a following, and it just makes it that much easier. Like people will get excited if there's energy around them, and I'm a big believer in that energy.
Yeah, you certainly get that from you, that's for sure. How did the two of you meet, or how did you meet Rare Cancers Australia?
We were just there's a guy, a mutual friend of ours called Mark Chance, who's known.
So a chance meeting.
It was a chance meeting. It was literally a chance meeting.
They came for the promotion but stayed for the comedy, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. That's very good. And we were we were just out one day. Mark was there, and he said, "Oh, you've got to meet this guy." And grabbed Zach, brought him over, and we had a chat and said, "Well, you better come in and see us." It was quite clear that there was something of interest. We kind of knew we didn't have a job description for Zach, and I defy anyone to write it, but we knew we had a need that we wanted to engage in things like, I'm sure I'll segue for Zach to talk about things like the Bowral, but getting teams, ride for rare teams in the Bowral Classic, but to have people, and not only in Bowral but in other places around the country, we've never had that sort of rare team in the City to Surf, that's the kind of stuff we want. City to Surf? We haven't done it yet.
I was going to say, how you feeling? It's last week or the week before?
No, next year.
Okay.
Zach's going to do it next year.
Oh, there you go. Good luck, Zach. So tell us about Bowral Classic.
Well, the Bowral Classic is on the 21st of October, and I've known James Yaffa from Yaffa Media for a long time, and I remember probably 10 years ago he rang me and he said, "Zach, can you tell me what I have to do to get the community excited about putting a major cycling event on in Bowral?" And I said, "Oh, well, James, I'll be honest with you. You've really got a tough task there, because I'm the president of the cycling club and we're just getting people excited." And then you go back to all those cars, drivers, all that sort of stuff. And he's like, "Well, let's sit down and talk about it." And we talked about it, and we went through the processes of where we would host it. And he's like, "Can you imagine 5,000 people in Bong Bong Street and it closed, and they all go out at different times?" And we really built a vision of the Bowral Classic. And I was with him last Wednesday, and we were talking about the Bowral Classic and charity, and he said, there's a lot of charities out there, and we want to give people the opportunity to choose. We don't want to be an event where we go, you can only enter our event if you support this charity and you raise this much money. Then you're allowed in.
Really? That sounds a bit not the right thing to do. But
no, so the platform for the Bowral Classic was come and enjoy the beautiful scenery of the Southern Highlands, We're going to give you a whole heap of different options to ride. If you want to be absolutely smashed through the hills, we drove around for about 5 months to make sure that would happen.
Very good.
And we want you to have this big party at the end. And we were going into the third Bowral Classic now. I'm actually heading up to Noosa at the end of next week to go to the Noosa Classic, and there's also the Clare Classic. So
have you got have you got Rare Cancers Australia teams for those, or are you just doing it off
your own? We're working on it at the press. Bowral will be our launch site for the Ride to Rare.
Oh, and, wow, that's a great. Is that your slogan? Ride to Rare?
Ride for Rare.
Ride for Rare, yeah.
That's
so.
I was going to say, don't ride too rare.
No. Ride for Rare, and the momentum is as we were walking down here, I was talking to Richard, and I said, "Oh, look, I know these people, and they want to do the social ride of 35 Ks, and how do we get on board?" And I'm like, "Well, you can register through the Rare Cancer Australia website."
Great. So you're bringing it back through your.
Well, absolutely, and we will support people, and we'll give them jerseys, and
awesome.
And I can't think of anything better than a whole heap of people riding for Rare around the streets and the scenery of the Southern Highlands.
Yeah, I think that's a really a great little collaboration.
Yeah, and
you've got going on. That's fantastic.
And things with the social ride, we're looking at partnerships with some of the schools, and I'm quite happy to push a kid up a hill as long as he's willing to support the cause.
And Cancer has a really good affiliation. Unfortunately, it's linked a little bit to Lance Armstrong, but it's got a really good affiliation with cycling. So I think
that's where it started. The cycling started for me, and I was actually
that's how you got into it.
Sitting in a bar the other day, going, I had this dream about the Lance Armstrong Foundation one day coming to Australia, and I could cycle and support cancer. And my best mate's like,
"Well, you can.
Well, you just did." But it's not Lance Armstrong, it's Rare Cancers Australia. So
yeah, wow, what
talk
a great
about living
story.
the dream.
Yeah, that's a fantastic story. Zach, you talked about motivation. Richard, how do you stay motivated? This has been a bit of a journey for you now.
Yeah, it's it is, and it's not done yet. There's been a lot of improvements. There's been Greg Hunt announced massive amounts of funding for rare cancer research for the first time over the last 18 months, and that's not all down to us, but it's certainly not at all, nothing down to us, if that makes any sense.
It makes sense.
We were sat there listening to the budget in May, and I turned to Kate and said, "Could you ever have imagined that rare cancers would have a specific budget line item in the federal budget?" So it's for me. There's two things. I'm not going to be doing this for the next 20 years. So for me, it's like making sure the organisation is strong, making sure we get it as far as we can over the next few years, and making sure that there's a succession plan in place when I go and specialise in my other great skill of growing tomatoes. And it's an organisation that even as things improve, there will always be that need for that patient care and patient support, and you just want to set it up and leave it in good hands. And the one thing I will say is that I've learnt enough about founders syndrome, and anyone who's had anything to do with working for organisations where the founder's still around will know what I mean, that when the time comes to go, we will go. We will not sit there and
you're done, eh?
Yeah, it's like so many organisations are crippled by people half getting out of it. When you leave, you leave.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough.
And leave that in the hands of young, talented people who just want to take it to the next level. That will be the goal. That's
really fantastic. And Zach, what motivates you, mate?
Oh, look, in a way, I've spent all these years working with people and raising money for all different sorts of charities and so forth, and now I get to get out of bed every morning and do it for a living, and I get to do it on a bike in many cases. And I know that might sound like a bit crazy, but it is. It's like living the dream, and I get to listen to. I get to sit and listen to our patient care people talking to the patients, and you go home every day and you're like, we're really making a difference.
Do you feel like it's karma? Like your life sucked for a little while, and so now it's really great?
No, I don't think my life ever sucked. I think if I was going to get sick, I would have preferred to get sick then. And the one thing I listen to people say is that, it must have changed your life having cancer. And I'm like, well, or what about your new life now? Well, it's the same life. And I was probably we'll use the word enthusiastic about life as I am now, except I've been given more opportunities and more platforms. But I think without that enthusiasm and without that attitude, I don't think I would have gotten through the experience earlier on. And that experience just kind of gives me the opportunity to sit back sometimes and realise that I'm very fortunate. It's sometimes it's not about luck; it's about good fortune, and seeing the outcome and giving it a push.
Well, look, I've definitely been fortunate to have the two of you on the program today. It's been like I said, I was sad when I started doing the preparation for it, but I can't find the right word to describe it. But I feel wholesome now. If that's a terrible description. But I kind of feel it's good to know that there's people who are doing the things that you're doing when things go bad for others. It's a really fantastic feeling.
It's a beautiful way to put it. Thank you. And thanks for the opportunity today.
That's all right. How do people find out about Rare Cancers Australia?
You can go to rarecancers.org.au on the web, or you can call 486.
It's a test.
4862 2768. 4862 2768.
And to find out more about the walk on March the 2nd, 2019,
just send an email to contact@rarecancers.org.au, and we'll put you on a mailing list. And when we'll be publicising that in November, so we'll be out to tell people.
Well, Zach, when you're ready, let me know, and I'll put it on here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't worry. I'll talk to your people, and then we'll be in here.
Well,
before
I'm my people. So
okay, well, then we've had that discussion, and
I don't have any people. I'd love to.
We are working on a few other exciting things when it comes to the Cozzy Challenge, but that's something we'll reveal later in the year.
Yeah, we might be getting a Highcast team together, I reckon. Any other events? You got Bowral Classic that you want to let people know about?
Yeah, I'm heading up to Noosa. I'm actually circulating a GoFundMe page, and we've got the Bowral Classic. Richard will tell you about a few events we're having in Canberra soon. Yeah,
the two major events for people who are interested in the topic and interested in particularly in genomics and genetics and things like that, and access to the way treatment is evolving with cancer. On the 11th of September, we have an event in Parliament House, and if you go to canforum.com.au, or if you just go to the RCA website, you'll find your way through that. The other thing, which is a lot of fun for people who are interested, is on October 26th, we have a Halloween ball, which is a costume ball at Sydney Town Hall, which is...
That does sound like a lot of fun, actually.
It is. It started out as... It's been really funny to watch over the 4 or 5 years it's been running. We had, in the first year, we had lots of people in suits and ball gowns and probably half a dozen in costumes, and now it's 50-50 or better in some amazing costumes. And this year the theme is you can come in a Halloween theme, or you can pretty much come what you like, but technically the theme is mad scientists, so you can
very appropriate.
You can do anything you want.
Very, very appropriate. And again, through the RCA website.
Please, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, this has been Highcast with Zach and Richard from Rare Cancers Australia. Another really interesting conversation. Thank you guys for coming on. It was I learned a lot, and I've come out feeling fantastic. Don't forget to check out Brightspenders, brightspenders.com. Give Anthea a call. She'll help you out. Check out Southern Highland News. I used to say Highlands. It's wrong. southernhighlandnews.com.au. See you next time.